on, whenever the muse hits.
All right, let me hit the commercial. I'm sorry, I'm trying to juggle with the Instagram.
Because I live in Detroit, I was able to get tuition-free college through the Detroit Promise. I feel very fortunate working with the Detroit Promise. They were able to afford me so many opportunities. I'm currently studying media production and journalism at University of Michigan Dearborn. I'm looking to take my talents further into the production industry, short films. I love working with people here, and this is where I want to be. And that's why I'm Detroit for life.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
What's on your mind?
What are the issues facing you and your families today?
Before we ask for your vote, Alyssa Slotkin wants to hear about your concerns.
Democrat Alyssa Slotkin is running for U.S. Senate, and she wants to have a real conversation about your issues.
Is it support for our small businesses, funding for our schools, good-paying jobs, or opportunities for our youth?
Alyssa is already building a campaign around listening.
It's how she shapes her agenda in Congress.
And why Alyssa's already been endorsed by small business owners, pastors, and leaders from our community.
We know too many campaigns come to us right before the election and ask for our vote.
That's not Alyssa. She has a reputation for listening and delivering.
And this is your chance to help shape the agenda in Washington.
Make your voice heard. Go to alyssaslotkin.org/community.
Because in this campaign, your ideas come first.
I'm Alyssa Slotkin, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Slotkin for Michigan.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Week That Was. My name is Saeed Khan, broadcasting today from Bradford, England. But you will find out that there are others who are also well outside the Metro Detroit area because we are an itinerant bunch. So coming in from the Michigan State Student Union, we have attorney Bill Seikaly, we have attorney Joel Sklar, and of course Steve Fishman is not here, so we've got 2/3 of our usual attorney contingent. We have pollster Ed Sarpolus, we have president of BME Consulting and former director of the Wayne County Public Services Department, Beverly Watts, labor and community activist Barbara Ingalls, and from that, what do you call it, the land of the South? Ohio. We've got veteran journalist Nancy Derringer, and of course, co-founder of Deadline Detroit, Allan Lengel. So I may be out of the country, but there was some kind of a debate that happened last week, and it looks like there's repercussions. So currently, it seems as though we're still.
Last week? I guess it was.
Can you believe it? It was last Thursday.
8 days ago.
We did talk about it a little bit on Friday. So there's.
Yeah, remember that was casino night. It was last Thursday.
It was casino night. But you're right. It has only been.
I kind of view it as being in Toledo. I spent a week there in one day.
Don't forget the mud hens.
Yeah. Right. Wasn't that what James Joyce was trying to do, Bill, with Ulysses? Was live a week in Toledo in one day? Anyway, so there of course has been a lot of chatter about whether Biden should stay in the race. Various overtures of interventions, including with, of course, his wife Jill Biden, his kids. Former President Obama, maybe former Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi. I think it might be helpful, though.
That was great.
So far I've been offered asylum by 3 counties in England. because of what's going on. But
you still have the passport. I am looking forward to becoming the second Mrs. Saeed Khan and going to and not getting in the first one. I would just be the auxiliary.
We could break something on deadline here, Allan.
Yeah, and making my escape from the country.
Well, Saeed, while you're there, they renamed the town Taylor Swift. I mean, you can go there and live. You can live as a follower of her.
There you go. Nancy,
would it be living?
You might need an abaya and learn how to walk 2 steps behind. Well, no, okay, that's
it's okay. I can handle that. It's not a problem. So go ahead.
Well, I believe Barb in the Split End song "One Step Ahead." So there you go. So what are we to make of the chatter? And is it just simply chatter, or is there really a crisis that's going to play itself out as we move toward the Democratic National Convention?
Go ahead.
Yep.
Or Ed,
I will jump in. Well, there's actually 2 trains of thought. The statisticians, the historians who track this for a living, not politician thing, is that Biden's just got to commit and run with it. And because Trump is in a very sad shape because he keeps his mouth open. Another group, you've got the black community says, how dare you drop Biden, then eliminate Kamala. So they're torn what to do. Kamala. And I think Kamala, excuse me. Excuse my ethnic abilities. But at the same token, it comes down to ABC's interview. We'll have to see how well he does, because I think that'll put more pressure on him to decide either stop or go. Yes.
I was going to say, real quick, I think, the debate itself, was pretty ugly. But I think when you start seeing the sharks come out of the water in D.C., where the leaks start coming out, where people close to Biden, you see Carl Bernstein on CNN saying, I've talked to people, and they say that incident, people have seen that 15 or 20 times in the past year. It's not an aberration. The New York Times comes out. Now the Washington Post today comes out. I think the fact that people are trying to show that this is more than just a blip and a mistake, I think it's hard to deal with.
I mean, there is a talk about Democratic donors, including the heiress of Disney, saying that it looks like they're going to be holding on to some of the big bucks. And apparently Biden's not going to be allowed into the Magic Kingdom without someone accompanying him. So, Beverly.
Yes. I just want to say, first of all, yesterday, having went to a lot of cookouts and everything, of course, I did miss the debate. But the first thing a lot of individuals are saying, and it was some Republicans at the cookout as well, but in Detroit, they were really upset at the Democratic Party for, it's not even 24 hours. They wish that they would have taken something like the Republicans. Instead of coming out in the public, acting scared and say, hey, let's get rid of Joe real quick. They wish those discussions would have happened off camera, behind the scenes. Republicans do a very good job at that before they emerge and start attacking one another. That's one. I think at the cookout yesterday it was kind of split because I was taking my own little polling. Some people definitely want to stick by the current president, sure. However, they paraphrased this, and this was the Black community, that if there's something medically wrong with him, that we don't know, like the mental state to be able to run this country, then of course they will be looking for a change, for the nominee. However, they're still going to stick with him. Also, to my surprise, the ones at the cookout were not opposed to, if the president continued on, making a switch with the VP. However, they know that would be a bad optic. So that means they were saying the VP herself would have to step up to the plate and say, this is my decision. This is what I want to do, because there's no way the current president can just drop her off the ticket if that were to happen. Thirdly, they said if that were to happen, if she stepped up to the plate for the good of the party, for the good of the country, and if Biden's continued on, they would love to see our governor, Gretchen, be that candidate, because she could also basically secure Michigan for the president. Overall, the polling there at this cookout, unofficial, they were scared as hell of the former president becoming the president again.
So
we do have a video. Let me play. We have a 16-second.
Let's just go ahead and introduce, because you
the other night. He kicked that old broken down pile of crap. Yeah, it's a bad guy. He just quit. He's quitting the rest. Is that right? Yep, I got him out of the race. And that means we have Kamala. I think she's going to be better. She's so bad.
So joining us, because we can't have only two musketeers, we've got attorney Steve Fishman finishing off the lower right square there. So on this, there's the news that apparently Governor Gretchen Whitmer may have said that Biden cannot win Michigan. And it seems as though there's some confusion about whether she actually said it or she didn't say it. Ed, I think you had a little bit of background information on that.
Well, if she might have slipped her tongue and said it, but may not believe it, because I know she's backtracking her ass, pardon expression, ever since she said that.
Okay. I mean, in this idea then about the various scenarios being played out, how much of the identity politics going to have to play a role? Is Gavin Newsom just pretty much out in case Biden drops out because he's a white male from California, then replacing a mixed race female from California?
I think Newsom, from you're looking at amongst the overall voters that the Democrats have to swing, Newsom's better than just picking a woman in general. Other than Obama's wife, it's going to be hard to find basically having two women on the ticket. I don't think that's going to cut it.
Yeah, I totally agree with the short, limited time we have. And what I've been hearing from individuals, Newsom is always up there. They are saying Newsom, if the president does not, go forward with running.
Yes.
All right, Bill.
What about Whitmer Warnock?
No.
What do we think about? No?
No.
I don't think Warnock's.
I would like that. I don't like the alliteration.
Right. I would like that, Nancy, if it was enough time, but I look at the scope that we have. We going toward, this is July going into August and November.
We don't have any time. I know, I get it.
I think Kamala Bashir, the governor of Kentucky, is VP, Kamala as the presidential candidate, if there were a replacement.
Or if Kamala stepped down in exchange for the next Supreme Court seat, that could be really interesting.
She would be great as that. She would be great.
Go ahead, Bill.
I think she would be.
Bill.
But I think that, I think that for the good of the Democratic Party, one thing that has to happen is there has to be we have to create the appearance of a democratic process and some kind of open convention. And I think that if Joe Biden steps down for, quote, the good of the country, look, personally, I don't mind if Harris runs. But I think that she's got to run on her own. She just can't be anointed. I think that would present all kinds of problems within the party. Mm-hmm. And so I think that, we have to have some process in which the party can go through a process in which they pick a candidate.
And it's a shame. Yeah.
It ain't going to be easy.
Yeah.
And do I think it needs to happen? I mean, I agree with Mike that age, unfortunately, as I'm discovering almost every day, is not a blip on the screen. It's a reality. It's not going away. It tends to get worse. And I know from conversations that I've had with people who do know Joe Biden, who are in the inner circle, these conversations are taking place. I mean, look at. Yeah, I agree with Beverly. I wish that we could do a better job, like the Republicans, of doing this out of the public eye. But let me tell you something. I think that there's some value in the public discussion because at least we're not looking like hypocrites. Look, we don't have a Mitch McConnell who will say, "Oh, Trump didn't get away with anything. He still has to face the criminal process. Oh, but the Supreme Court says that he's immune." And he's an existential threat. We've got to do something about it. We can't be hypocrites. We've got to decide how can we keep him out of office. Because if you look at Trump and Project 225, we're talking about the end of democracy as we presently know it.
Exactly, exactly. And it's unfortunate we couldn't have a Harris-Newsom ticket, but both are from California.
You can't. Just like you can't have a Buttigieg-Whitmer ticket.
Right.
Because they're both residents of Michigan now.
Exactly.
Well, they're going to have to make a decision very quick. They're going to have to vote for Biden because they have to get on the Ohio ballot. So the debate will have to happen after we announce Biden, and they'll have to do the public thing at the convention. But we're going to have to say Biden pretty soon.
Right.
One of our listeners actually invoked Beto O'Rourke, a name I haven't heard since Eugene McCarthy. But Steve,
what does everybody have to say about this interview with Stephanopoulos that's going to be on today?
I hope he's going to hit a home run. Praying.
One other thing. Number one, I don't believe for a minute that it's a live interview today. I think it's already been taped.
Yeah, it's recorded. They're saying
if I had to bet 50 cents, I'd say it'd be closer to a pop-out than it's going to be to a home run. That's just based on my thoughts about it. And I don't think it's going to be any better than anything else that's happened since in the last 6 months.
He is what he is.
We haven't.
What he is. He can't change his speech, how he looks, his gait, his memory, his inability to articulate. None of that's going to change. It's going to deteriorate. We can't be like Republicans and be flat earthers. We got to acknowledge that this guy isn't capable of running the nation. I'd let him drive a car. I take the fucking keys away from him. Any one of us could do that. Be responsible. He can't run the country. He's awake from 10 to. He can work from 10 to 4 and take a nap in between. That's absurd.
We haven't really. Can I just say this one thing? We haven't really said yet if we think Biden is out. I mean, Biden at this point still claims that he's in. He's telling people I'm in. But I think that our discussion so far in the last 17 minutes and is saying what we can't really say out loud yet, which is he's out. I just don't see how he can stay in.
Well, Nancy, in terms of him saying he's in, let's all put our big boy pants on or big girl pants on. And the fact of the matter is, until the decision is made, he's got to say that. Anybody like Whitmer who may take his place has got to say, no, we're absolutely supporting.
Right.
Look, these are the political realities. It's my personal belief, and I think, Nancy, you're saying the same thing. It's my personal belief that for the good of the country, he's got to step aside. This is going to be a razor-thin race.
Yeah.
I mean, Ed can talk better to this than anybody, but we're talking about a few points in key battleground states is going to make the difference.
Yes.
We can't take the chance of people staying home.
Right.
Okay. We can't take the chance of there not being a
how important that is in Oakland County in 2020 to 2016. From 2020, from 16 to 20, 80,000 more Democrats showed up in 2020 than they did in 2016. That's the difference. If those 80,000 don't show up and stay home like they did in 2016, it's over with.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I think what's happening right now is that Biden is like, I'm absolutely in. I'm in 100%, but he needs to feel like he's the one who's going to make the decision. It's like my father gave up driving. He just at 92, 93, he said, you know what? Insurance is too expensive. I don't drive so much. He gave up his keys. We didn't have to take them away. Not that there were any issues per se of him driving at that point, but Biden needs to give the keys and not have someone rip it out of him. By the way, David, we are going to talk about the Samantha Woll case later in this. We have a video and we are going to talk about it. David is saying that we should talk about more local cases, but we all have a great interest in, which I think is local as well. This is so important.
This is the big thing. I just want to say too.
That's fine. Yeah.
When Joe Biden first ran for president, I think the idea was he was going to kick Trump out of office, and it was going to be a one-term presidency because he knew about his age. And I think it's one of those things that Trump didn't go away. It was assumed that Trump was going to go away.
Totally agree. Totally.
And so here we are. And for whatever reason, and it's important to remember, and the hysteria is making me nuts. The press coverage is sickening, and it's not fair. But I just want to remind everybody, and I know you know, that this has been one of the most successful presidencies in terms of what he's been able to get done. His administration has been amazing. He's been a labor president. He's been a climate president.
Yes.
And I didn't see the debate. Thank God, because the internet was going in and out up north. But I was reading everything, and everything that Trump lied about every single time he opened his mouth. He lied.
You got to watch it, Barbara.
For every single thing he did, and that stupid newsreader didn't correct him, didn't shut him up.
It wasn't that.
It wasn't that. It
was
wasn't
a disaster of the highest proportions.
It was
objective evidence that he cannot cognitively do his job. It was objective evidence that everybody could see that he is cognitively unable to function and do his gig.
It's true, but I think
it's not hysteria. It's an acknowledgement of reality.
This is why the Democrats are always in disarray, always trying to catch up. They can't.
Dems in disarray.
Right, exactly. But you know, Barb, I think you're absolutely right. But I stand by my position before they even announced the debates that the president should have never agreed to any debates. Donald Trump didn't agree to any debates. The president had something to lose. Donald Trump had nothing to lose with debates. It is no way he should have held this debate. I would have said no debates. Hey, I'm a president. He's a former president. What the hell are we debating? He refused to debate his former candidates, colleagues running for the nomination. So I would have never agreed to any debate. Period.
And a debate before the conventions. I mean, that seems a little peculiar.
Yeah.
Though, boy, aren't we glad that it happened?
Can we make this guy Duvid happy and talk about Samantha Woll so he'll stop dropping these ridiculous comments?
We will.
Okay.
Hold on.
I think we still got more here.
Yeah.
Can I raise an issue? Because I think, Beverly, I respect what you had to say. I respect everything you say, in fact. But, you know, my problem with this is a problem that I have with my son, because he always says, hey, Trump doesn't follow the rules. We got to quit following the rules. Trump doesn't do this. We got to quit. And while I agree with the concept that Biden may have been better off, it's kind of an anti-democratic position. And, you know, Democrats tend to believe in the big tent, tend to believe in the debates and things like that. I've kind of got another issue that I'd like to raise, if you don't mind. I think that everybody here agrees that Trump's an existential threat to democracy. Project 2025 is dangerous, all that stuff. But someone posed this question to me this weekend, and I can't get it out of my head. Let's assume that the majority of Americans who vote decide we don't want democracy anymore. We want Trump. We want Project 2025. As a matter of fact, put it on the ballot. We're ready to get rid of democracy. Instead, take a Trumparian kind of dictatorship, because we think it's better for the country. If you believe in democracy, I mean, we criticize Trump for not saying, if we have an election, are you going to abide by the results? Are we willing to abide by those results? I think that was the toughest question anybody's asked me recently.
So Bill,
easy for me. That's when the Derringer start buying guns and the Civil War starts.
I think
actually,
my
Nancy,
country too. Okay.
I totally agree with you, Bill.
I hope Nancy, I hope that they were buying Derringers.
There's only 2 shots, you know. So.
Okay.
But like I was going to say, Bill, I totally agree with you. I think sometimes mine come because I am a strategist. And so I definitely think that debates are good for democracy, but also strategists too. Just like if I was going to say, hey, if they ask my opinion, yeah, you know, don't prepare him. The guy has been in office in some level for age 33. What does he need to be prepared for? I mean, and that's when you get things all jumbled, especially if they know something that, you know, with them dealing and working with the president every day that we don't know, you know, due to age. Why are you going to clog his brain with all of this information? Let him just go out and be himself, because he didn't have to have a hard debate given who he was debating against. But yeah, I think
I think a debate. You got it. I mean, I was not happy that Duggan in the last election refused to debate because he was so far ahead. I think it's good that we see who we have, and I think it exposes Biden for some of the shortcomings there. That, I mean, it also exposed Trump for the, the serial liar. I mean, or reinforces the serial liar that but it also showed some of the weaknesses of Biden, which we're the American people. We should get to take a look at the car before we buy it. And,
especially since
I don't know how anybody could
TV.
watch. I could not imagine how anybody could watch that debate and not walk away with saying that Trump is a fearmonger. I mean, it seems so self-evident. We're a third-rate country. Nobody respects us. It was as bad as Trump could get, and he doubled down, tripled down on it.
The job numbers came out today, and they were good. There's news out of the Middle East that Hamas has told Hezbollah that they're willing to reach an agreement with Israel, which are all part of the Biden administration. I mean, the Biden administration has been very heavily involved in trying to broker peace in the Middle East. They've been heavily, obviously, involved in the economy, and here is just good news after good news, and but you can't ignore that a person is on decline like that. It's like, my father, slowly you see good days and bad days, but there are some of the bad days, and it's like anyone else,
President can have.
So Michael asked an interesting question. Can a democracy vote to end itself? I don't know, Michael, if a democracy can, but a republic might be able to.
Yeah.
And to go
what
on
happened
what
in
Bill,
Palestine, it's what happened with Hamas. Hamas got elected, quit having elections.
Well, the other mechanisms that don't necessarily involve direct voting might pose that kind of existential threat that you were talking about, Bill. The Supreme Court finally decided on the case of presidential immunity, and it seemed as though they said that the president of the United States does have pretty far-reaching immunity, and including if he is or she is committing or conducting an official act, and threw it back to the lower courts in the Trump case to determine whether or not something constitutes an official act. How do we see this issue of presidential immunity, not just for the Trump case, but moving more progressively into any president making the claim that they could act in an official capacity?
It strengthens the executive beyond what I believe the framers ever intended the executive to be empowered to do. I mean, this is an absurd. Democracy is a delicate balance. And when the executive is given way too much power and given immunity for criminal acts, for even those who are on the outer perimeter of his official acts, I don't even know what the hell that means. Could he have any one of us killed because we are some sort of threat to the state in his capacity as president, and not any criminal liability whatsoever because it's in his interest or his administration's interest? It's in the best interest that we die. I mean, this is a frightening position. I know that the thought was the Supreme Court would never do it. It'd be an 8-1 decision. This court is on a mission. It's driven by its own political ideologies, by their wives to an extent, and their ideologies. This is a dangerous situation that the court has given the executive so much authority. I think it's not as narrow as the court says it is. I think it's going to cause presidents to push that line, and we are all at greater risk because of it.
They have essentially they have told him that he can do whatever he wants, and they are on his side. And
it's close, but it's not quite true. Steve, have you read the opinion?
I have not.
I have.
So I've read this opinion, and here's what strikes me. This is not what I predicted would happen. I thought that Roberts and others would be far more reasonable. This, in my opinion, is the worst Supreme Court opinion I have ever read. And I've read some pretty. This may beat Dred Scott. I mean, this is just terrible because it gives Trump a roadmap.
That's what I just said.
That's right. Yeah. But it doesn't give him permission to do anything he wants. It gives him immunity from criminal prosecution in ways, and Joel's right, in ways that none of the founders could have ever thought about. These guys are all talk about, well, you've got to go look at the intent of the founders when you interpret the Constitution. There is no way that you can look at this and opinion and say this was the intent of the founders, because it goes so far as to say what they should have decided is what we all kind of knew. The president can't be prosecuted during the presidency in a criminal court. That was easy. But they've gone so far beyond that. They have said, oh, you can't even do it after he leaves, but more importantly, you can't even admit certain evidence that shows intent if it was part of his, even related to his official duties. It gives Trump a roadmap. If he can keep more than a third of the Senate so that he can't be successfully impeached, then he can't be criminally prosecuted. He can fundamentally do anything he wants. That's the danger of this opinion.
And Bill,
it's got to be overruled.
That was indicated by Justice Clarence Thomas, who essentially was signaling like it was a bridge match over to Judge Eileen Cannon about whether or not special prosecutor in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case, Jack Smith, was in fact illegally appointed. So the very idea that it seems Thomas is, on a reasonable interpretation, saying, hey, go ahead and rule that he was illegally appointed. We'll go ahead and take care of it when the case comes up to the Supreme Court.
Right, exactly.
Is that fair reading? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
That's downright frightening. Alan, why don't we take a commercial break right now?
Without Project Clean Slate, there is no telling where I would be right now.
It gave him back his life, because once he got the felony, it seemed like life was over.
Being unemployed, being depressed, being a burden. Project Clean Slate helped wipe those things away. I can't say thank you enough. I am now able to work for a reputable airline. Detroit had my back, all because I live in Detroit.
Fellas, I'm new in town, and I've been here a couple times. I absolutely love your place, man. But I've got to ask you, if you can, I've heard that you're going to be shutting this place down.
I'm not proud of it, brother, but we're behind our property taxes. And the county is all over us, man. I'm even afraid to even give them a call.
Well, we can't let it go, brother. I mean, we can't give up. There's got to be a GoFundMe campaign that we can run, even past the plate. Is there a forgiveness program or something that's out there?
Well, unfortunately, that's only for the big guys.
No, actually, Wayne County has payment plans for everyone.
Are you for real?
Yes, it's a well-designed program. We want to help you save your business.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. If you have delinquent taxes on your home or business, contact our office, 313-224-5990, or visit our website, treasurer.waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Got it.
Sorry, I just crack up every time I watch that. Now you speak up.
Well, it seems like Donald Trump wasted no time after the Supreme Court decision. Now it looks like he's trying to have his hush money verdict in New York overturned. And in fact, it looks like the sentencing that was scheduled for next week on the 11th has also been put off. Is he going to now run the table?
I don't think so on the state claim. That was before I thought he was even in office. So
that's what I thought.
There's the Hope Hicks testimony that's why I was so offended by some of this. The Hope Hicks testimony is suspect given the immunity decision.
It's absurd.
Well, there's more than that. I mean, he wrote the check sitting in the White House. That's going to be. I think what Merchan did.
Good point.
Was I think it was the right thing to do, because you may as well try to hash it all out before you go ahead and sentence. They're going to try to say that the conviction should be overturned. He's going to have to decide. Let's say if for some reason, the reason would be, just as Bill said before, of all the craziness about the immunity opinion, the craziest is that you can't use the guy's own words, language to show intent. That's insane. That doesn't occur in any other criminal case I've ever heard of or I could think of. So if that's kept out, and if the writing of the checks somehow it could be an official act, then the judge has to decide if you knock those things out, do you still have enough to support the conviction? My guess, in all honesty, unless somebody overrules him, I think he's going to say that there's enough left to support the conviction. I think he's going to sentence him in September. The real question for me is, given the Supreme Court's opinion and given the fact that he's going to be basically held immune, does that encourage Merchan to say, you know what, fuck this fucking guy. I'm not giving him any 60 days. I'm giving him 3 years, because if he's never going to face any kind of consequences, Judge Cannon certainly, I don't know if she's going to rule Jack Smith there's never been a court that's even come close to saying that, but she's certainly going to dick around with the case enough that you won't be able to try it. And Merchan may say, well, heck, this is the only chance we got to hold him responsible. And then we see.
But Steve, to appeal to half of my family, from your mouth to God's ear.
Yeah, exactly.
But Steve, does it even really matter anymore which way she rules? Because it'll go up to the 11th Circuit. It'll ultimately be attempted to be appealed all the way up to the Supreme Court. And Thomas has already indicated, probably it seems not only just his vote on the issue, but I think he probably signaled that Trump that he's going to have at least 5 votes in his favor on that.
I'd be very surprised if that's the case. Each time these guys decide a case, we say they can't be this big a whores. But if they were to do that, given that nobody ever, that issue's been brought up before, no court ever has ever said they don't have the authority to appoint a special prosecutor. Clarence Thomas and maybe Alito, but even with the immunity thing, Amy Coney Barrett, I'm not happy she signed on the majority opinion, but at least she recognized that what Bill said is ridiculous. The fact that you can't use the guy's own words to show intent in a separate case, it's ridiculous. So I don't believe that. Maybe I'm too much of an optimist, but I just can't see anybody other than the two of them. Maybe that guy Gorsuch. I can't tell too much about him, but I can't see them getting 5 votes for that.
Well, Trump has been using his words in other ways. He's called for former Congresswoman from Wyoming, Liz Cheney, to be tried for treason, and he is called about bringing
military tribunals.
Yeah, military
tribunal. That's the real dangerous part of that.
Yes.
He's a dangerous dude. We have we haven't shown the Lincoln Project little thing.
You don't have to. Just
go
ahead. I'd rather hear what Steve says.
I want to hear what Steve has to say about it.
And then we'll play it.
I think that the step about the military, it's not just our present military people. I really wonder whether the military will follow an order from him that's clearly illegal or clearly unconstitutional or clearly whatever you want to call it. I have a hard time believing. I have to hope that a guy like Michael Flynn won't be in charge of the military. I just think your normal person that's in the military, they love the country. That's why they joined the military in the first place.
They joined, yeah.
So I think that's going to be maybe the last stop that we're going to have if this guy gets in again. But I find it hard to believe that the military would follow through on those kind. Go kill, SEAL Team 6. I think SEAL Team 6 would turn around and tell him to go fuck himself. Quite frankly, I just don't.
Unfortunately, that's the real danger with Project 2025. The whole goal of Project 2025 is to find people who won't follow Trump,
Agreed.
ferret them out of the system. That's the huge danger.
Yeah.
Good. All right. So, speaking of Lincoln,
getting closer to home. Okay, go ahead.
Real quick.
The ultimate predators hidden in the depths of our oceans. Until now. This year, we present Electric Boat Battery Week.
What would happen if the boat sank from its weight and you're in the boat and you have this tremendously powerful battery and there's a shark that's approximately 10 yards over there? Do I stay on top of the boat and get electrocuted, or do I jump over by the shark?
You thought sharks were enough. Well, now there's a new danger. Batteries. For millennia, mankind feared the deadliest predators of the sea. Now, the predator is of our own making.
You can't make this stuff up.
By the way, I mean, there are plenty of videos out there with Trump talking and suddenly fading out and not finishing a sentence and mumbling and mispronouncing words and stuff like that. But I mean, he, at that debate looked physically stronger, not mentally.
Yeah.
Steve. That right there is exactly what drove me the craziest about Biden's performance at the debate. If it would have been anyone, Kamala's a lawyer, former prosecutor, Pete Buttigieg could talk to anybody. Anyone else, people who talked about they should have fact-checked them, bullshit. The other person, it should have been Biden, would have been fact-checking. And it's not just fact-checking. That guy said in the 15 minutes that I watched, everybody agrees. Everyone agrees the question of abortion should be left to the states. And then Biden, blah, 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 blah. If that would have been Buttigieg, that's interesting that he just said that, because 53% or whatever it is of women that are the population of this country, I doubt very much that they all agree with what he could have made such an ass out of him. And that is what drove me the craziest. And that the chance is now gone, because he's never going to get on a debate stage with a normal person, because they'll kill him. It's
Right. And that's why your wife was watching the movie afterwards. Turned it off.
We only made it through 15 minutes in separate rooms, mind you. We both independently turned it off in 15 minutes.
And Steve, you're right. I mean, I did not watch again the debate, but a lot of comments I'm hearing, especially from the Black community, is they're upset that, a statement he made that, Trump, that no one's really talking about when he relates to immigration, immigrant jobs, and then taking Black people's jobs. Really?
Right.
So, they're really pissed on that statement.
Yeah.
Okay.
So closer to home, of course, we've got the ongoing Samantha Woll murder case. The defendant in the case, Michael Jackson Bolanos, took the stand. And Allan, do you have any updates on the case?
We have. I've been following it pretty closely, but we'll play this little tape. This is a little snippet of him testifying on his own behalf, saying that he stumbled across the body outside after the murder. So,
at some point in time, were you able to, ascertain what this dark figure was?
When I got close enough, yes, I could tell it was a person.
Okay. Could you tell it was a male or a female?
Not right off the hand.
Okay. Was this person doing anything?
Laying down on the ground.
Okay. And what position did you see this person laying down on the ground in?
With their back towards me.
Okay. And did you approach this?
I did.
Okay. And what, if anything, did you do when you approached?
I touched the person's neck to see if they were okay.
Okay. And was the person okay? Did they respond to you?
They wasn't okay.
Okay. And you said you touched their neck?
Yes.
Do you know which hand you might have used?
My right hand.
Okay. And why are you sure that you used your right hand?
Because I remember.
Okay. And did you do anything? Did you shake the body? Did you do anything?
I didn't shake the body. I just checked the neck, put my hand kind of like in between right here. No air. No breath or nothing. And once I realized that I just touched the dead person, I just grabbed the bag and I left.
So what's happening is, okay, he's on the stand. The defense is presenting its case. They should, I assume they'll go to a jury sometime next week. Here's the thing. When he was arrested one time and let go, and then they were testing all his clothing and stuff. They found a couple spots of blood on his North Face jacket that had been washed. They found a little blood on his backpack. It was linked to Samantha Woll. During an interrogation with police, he said, "I never saw a body. There was nothing out there." And now he says he did. And so I don't know. I've had two. I thought he sounded fairly believable, but two former police officer, or one homicide and one police chief, watched it and thought he was not being truthful, and they were skeptical. But I think it's going to be tough to get a conviction. But go ahead, Bill.
Bill. So I'm curious. I mean, they also had this testimony that he was in Greektown and that he couldn't have been there at the time. Right. How do they square these up?
Well, what happened was, they say there was a motion detector in her townhouse at 4:20. It went dormant at 4:22 a.m. So they're theorizing that that's when the murder took place. At 4:23 or 4:24 a.m., he is seen on the Monroe Bridge near Greektown. He shows up on a video. So they had just recently, they had the state police detective maybe about 2 weeks ago do some trial runs from the front porch to that bridge. So when he was walking briskly, it was 3 minutes and 33 seconds, something like that. When he was jogging lightly, it was 1 minute and like 40 seconds. And then when he was sprinting, it was 1 minute and 10 seconds. So they tried to show that that was possible. They did show other video that evening where he was walking around. He was breaking into cars. And he found and he was running at one point. He heard some noise, and they show him running. So they show he was certainly capable of running. They found no handprints, any fingerprints in her townhouse, but he had broken into a car and got a backpack with surgical gloves, which he then put on. He says he put them on so that his fingerprints wouldn't show up on cars. But so there's a lot of questions. The hard part is, can the prosecution actually show that he was in the house?
Yeah.
And that's sort of the
take car break-ins seriously enough to fingerprint them? I mean,
well, he was wearing gloves, so I don't know.
But my point is, in Grosse Pointe,
they have video.
Just say, was the car locked? No. Well, lock it next time.
Right.
Have a nice day.
He says he was just opening car doors, and then the ones that were open, he went in, but he had gloves on. But they have video of him going into cars. And
I kind of watched it, his testimony once. My phone started ringing when they were like, oh, he's taking a stand. So I turned it on from my car, and he seemed believable to me. However, if I was a juror, the most I would do, I would not find him not guilty. I would find maybe having a hung juror, giving the prosecutor another opportunity, because the problems for me is that, yes, he says, it's not logical to me that he says that, hey, I'm probably going to be, if I got caught, I'm on 3 strikes or 4 strikes, whatever he was saying, you want to go back to prison. So then why are you bending down to say, I'm going to check a pulse? I'm going to approach something that's in the dark. I don't know what it is. Most normal people, even myself, what are you checking for? Most people don't even know where to check on the neck for a pulse. So then you're contradicting yourself, because say, for example, when you see if it was breathing, if she was breathing, what if she was breathing? What if she had a pulse? Then what? Because you said you couldn't dial 911. So I think that, I don't know whether he was coached to say that, but that would be problematic for me. In addition to another main thing. They say he's just a car thief, petty car thief. Well, how do we know that? We only know that he's never been caught or charged. But we also know there's a lot of unsolved murder cases in the city of Detroit. So we don't know that he's never done anything to that degree beyond breaking into cars, because he's never been charged or found guilty. But
Beverly never gets on any of my juries.
I'm just saying,
because you got to listen to the evidence, not on this speculation.
Exactly. But again, for me, looking at the facts, if he didn't do it, where's the boogeyman? Yeah. Where's someone else running from the home or driving away? Well, where are they? Who else could have done it if not you? Where is this person? Because it was shown that she wasn't home all night. She came from a wedding. Right. And again, the prosecution has a lot of holes in their case too. But for me, then, if it's not you, who else? Where are they on any? And maybe they could have got away. Maybe they could have. But the prosecution, I think, does have.
We've got attorneys giving the safe sign.
It's Fishman.
Beverly, if it comes down to that, the argument, if it's not him who did it, that's the exact opposite of the way jurors are supposed to look at the case. And if the lawyer, I don't know the lawyer, I haven't paid much, if any, attention to this case.
He's done a good job.
He's good. He's been good.
If the lawyer hasn't impressed upon the jurors from the voir dire all the way on that that's not the way you look at the world. If somebody is presumed to be innocent, it doesn't mean, well, if it wasn't him, who was it? That's absolutely the argument that it flies directly in the face of what our whole system is all about. Yeah. That's number one. Number two, to me, I asked you guys way back when, because I know nothing of this case. This is not your typical homicide. You see somebody, you shoot. What's the motive for this guy? When you say maybe he's a murderer, okay, maybe he is. But this is a different kind of killing. This is not your typical homicide case where people shoot into a crowd or they shoot at some guy at the other side of the bar. When they have firearms. It's different than doing what whoever did this did. This is awfully personal to me. And that's the first time I've seen this guy at all. Just his demeanor. I don't know if he's done it himself or the lawyer did it for him or whatever. He just doesn't seem to come across as that type of guy. And don't think that I haven't been around people who are more than capable of stabbing someone 100 times. I've spent plenty of time around people like that. This guy just doesn't come across that way. And
Steve, I think we agreed that you weren't supposed to talk about our relationship on this.
I would say this.
Hey, Steve, you're right. You're right. You've been around it a lot more than me. This is just a unscientific person sitting back looking at it, and also to admission, having had a family member, murdered in this city that still remains unsolved. So I'm looking at a lot of different lenses. But you're right. To your point, I have never had a jaywalking ticket, so you're up close and personal much more than I've ever been.
I want to say this, that Duvid has been suggesting in some of his comments that maybe there's what does this do for the Jewish-Black relationship? And I'd say absolutely nothing.
Let me interrupt. We talked about that from the beginning when she first was killed. If there was anything, this has absolutely nothing to do with her being Jewish or with the defendant being Black. This is not at all what we're talking about with some of the things we've seen in New York and some of the things we've seen in the different cities in New York. This is just a homicide case. Who the victim happens to be Jewish. The defendant is the defendant, and he happens to be Black. This has nothing to do with Black-Jewish relations, and that's all there is to it.
I agree with that.
I had to talk a friend of mine here in Columbus off the ledge after this happened because CNN and the national media were making a big deal because it happened right after October 7th, and they were making a big deal out of this woman being stabbed to death, and that it was an Arab who did it probably, or somebody who hated her because she was the president of a synagogue.
Yeah, I remember
that.
I
mean, I kept telling her, it's like, you live here in Columbus. I live in at least not. I live adjacent to the city of Detroit. And
let's not talk about where you live.
I know, and I'm more familiar with the way crime happens here maybe than you are. Just as somebody who reads the papers, and don't worry about that part just yet. Let's wait.
No, I totally agree. I don't think there's been any evidence of any bad relationships between the Black community and the Jewish community.
No, so
having said that, just looking at it and here, it doesn't even appear that he even knew who she was. Not saying maybe it could have been surprise, chance it, whatever. I don't think he intended to come out that night to kill someone. Just listening to him. Right.
He did testify. He said that night he had no knife on him. When he was arrested the second time, they found a knife in his pocket. They tested the knife. I mean, there's nothing to show any link, but they did have some forensics person or somebody say that it could have been, that knife could have been used, but they have no, it was purely speculative.
Exactly. Then he said his testimony, the reason he carried the knife previously, because he's kind of a wild driver. And in case he ever got into a bad accident, he could cut the seatbelt off.
I mean, between his testimony and the testimony of Samantha Woll's former boyfriend, which I believe he had initially confessed, and then he said that he had some medications and there were some other things, and from seeing his testimony on the stand, perhaps for some being less than convincing, do you think then that's enough for reasonable doubt if you were to take a look at this case?
I think there's some reasonable doubt there. I mean, I think they have. I mean, look, he has blood on him. He was out that night. He was on the block at 4 a.m. Or obviously there at 4:20 or whatever when he saw the body there. But I think there's no 100% feeling of that he was in the house there. Is he lying? Like I say, a couple of former police people, one homicide detective who's very, very astute, said, I think he's lying, but that's a hunch.
Right. I think I did listen to the testimony of the ex-boyfriend. I don't think that would give me reasonable doubt with him, but there's a lot of other things that do give me reasonable doubt, about just the manner again in which it was done, but just the quickness of it was done, and just like the lack of all the blood when you look into the pictures inside the home. and then you look at the, you know, the little specks of blood that's on him, there's a lot of things that would give me pause for reasonable doubt, but not the ex-boyfriend's testimony, no.
Now, the motive, somebody was just asking what the motive is. The prosecution has been theorizing the motive was a crime of opportunity, that he was planning to rob her. But the defense says nothing was taken. Her computer was there, her phone was there, her purse was there, her wallet was there. And so that raises some questions. Steve.
Let's hear from Steve.
Here's what it's all going to boil down to in a case like this in particular. It all is going to boil down to how the jurors are looking at the defendant and how well the jurors have been conditioned through either the voir dire, the jury instructions, et cetera, to make sure that they go by that they follow the presumption of innocence, the burden of proof, and proof beyond a reasonable doubt. If they go in the back and say that guy's a murderer or that guy's a killer, then they'll look at the evidence the way Beverly was looking at the evidence. If they go in the back and they just don't get that feeling from him, that's a very important thing. It's not something that you're going to see on a transcript. It's not something that people even necessarily argue, but you can tell when you're in the courtroom what relationship that jury is starting to have with the client. And if you get to the feeling where the jurors, Carl Marlinga's case is the best example in federal court. He goes out to dinner still with all the jurors, and the people who represented him I knew, and they could tell during the case they liked him. They thought he was an honest man. So it really doesn't matter so much what the specifics are. It's a lot of things are perception in a jury trial, and that I'm sure is going to be part of this. And unless you're watching it all the time, like Allan seems to be doing, if you're watching it all the time, you can get a feel for it. I have no idea because I haven't seen any of it other than what Allan just showed.
Right. He came across very well with his testimony.
There was, as Duva points out, that the Oakland County medical examiner wanted to testify that it appeared to fit a pattern of a crime of passion, emotionally charged, and the judge would not allow him to testify, saying that you can't talk about someone's emotions. We have no idea.
The judge was right, because that's ridiculous that a guy could get up there and testify. In Oakland County, they'd have let him. That judge who had the Crumbly case would have let him. He'd have been up there for 14 hours.
Right. But Steve, based upon what your analogy, I think that he came across very, compelling on the witness stand. And he's, besides that touching the pulse, but that's why I think that he'll be either acquitted or it's going to be a hung juror, because he did come across compelling. He admitted, I'm a petty thief. He admitted all of that, but he said, I'm not a killer.
He's been convicted 3 times of being a petty thief or whatever. And so I think the Detroit News, someone was mentioning the Detroit News had a story saying that during his time in prison, that he had a lot of violations for violence and stuff like that. So that's not admitted in the court. So,
Hey, Allan, let's go to the last segment.
All right, let me get our man here.
Downtown Detroit, Robert Wells, Schmuck of the week.
All right, now being mindful that Nancy actually has to leave and mark it for the record before Steve, we'll go ahead and let Nancy go first.
I'm calling it the Fishman exit. So the French exit. Anyway, I do have to go. But I did want to get my Schmuck in here, and mine this week is Victoria Spartz, who is the Ukrainian-born and Eastern European accented Republican House representative from somewhere in exurban Indianapolis, who became, by my count, either the 3rd or the 4th Republican politician to be caught trying to carry a handgun through airport security. And I think, and at the time it struck me because, Republicans are always standing up for the Second Amendment by saying that we can't punish responsible gun owners by over-punishing or by punishing irresponsible ones. And, I don't really like guns, but my first question is, isn't the first act of being a responsible gun owner knowing where the hell your gun is? Because all of people had the same excuse, which is I forgot it was in there, and it's like I had no idea it was in there. I mean, who would try to carry a loaded weapon through airport security knowing what we know about airport security? So I'm going to call her. She's not only she betrays her native country of Ukraine, she betrays her adopted country of the United States. by being an idiot gun owner. So she's mine.
I think she's going to launch the Nirvana defense, Nancy, by saying, "And I swear that I don't have a gun." No, I don't have a gun. So there you go. All right.
Okay.
Well, take care, Nancy. We'll see you next week.
Thanks. Okay, take care. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Steve, who's your schmuck this week?
I have two schmucks. One is Hillary Clinton, and the other one is James Comey. Because after all of this talk about Donald Trump, if it wouldn't have been for those two, we'd have never heard from that guy again after 2016.
Yeah.
James Comey, who they sometimes actually talk about in glowing terms on MSNBC, it's beyond my comprehension. That guy single-handedly relit Trump's campaign, and she, by the deplorables, not coming to Michigan, not going to Wisconsin, the arrogance of that, and here we've been stuck with this for 8 years. So even though we're going back, the statute of limitations hasn't run on my schmuck of the week thing. So they're it. James Comey and Hillary Clinton.
Comey says, I promised Congress if something came up, I would do it. He was told, which theoretically the Justice Department is his boss, they were told, do not tell Congress that this is going to impact the election. And him thinking he's so egocentric, he fucking did it. It was crazy.
He's such a Boy Scout.
Yeah. I did a column for my other particularwire.com saying James Comey is a prisoner of his Boy Scout image. And that wasn't that the same way? Wasn't that the same description of Oliver North back in '87?
Yeah.
That he was a Boy Scout?
Yep.
Yeah. There you go. Beverly.
Okay. Having listened to some of the national news and after they're polling individuals after the debate, and then having some own personal conversations, my schmuck of the week is anyone who does not participate in November in the election. I get it about the debate. I get it about both candidates, but this mindset that I'm just going to stay at home, I'm not voting, our democracy is on the line. So all the schmucks out there who are thinking about not voting, that's who I got.
All right. Sort of proto schmuckery. Got it.
I think since it's lunchtime, my schmuck of the week is RFK Jr. He said he wouldn't eat humans because he didn't want to talk about eating a dog.
Yeah.
Wow.
Best.
Way to go, Ed. That was great.
Ed, first they deny it and then they claim that there was consent.
Yes.
So all right. Barb.
My schmuck this week is pretty much the national media, specifically the New York Times. I've been a subscriber to the Times since the mid '90s, and we read it every day, and I've been tracking their coverage of Donald Trump for years, and they cannot get enough. They can't get enough. But they're and understanding that we are in a terrible crisis. I mean, I really get it that we are in crisis. But yesterday they had more stories about the hot dog eating contest than they did about some of the bullshit douchebaggery that leaps out of Donald Trump's very pores every time he does. And it's hot dog eating contest. And what are we going to do about the old man where everything is horrible? It's like we have a country that's in really good shape. We have an old man that we have to deal with. Do your fucking job. And enough with the Trump love. Enough with him above the fold. Enough. So they're my schmucks of the week. All
right. Bill.
I'm going to go with Kevin Roberts, ahead of the American Heritage Foundation.
Yeah.
He also sponsored the Trump Project 2025. He had a great quote this week. We are in the process of the second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be. So if the left allows us to take over, we'll do it without blood. If they don't, I guess there'll be some blood. This guy is offensive beyond words, and this Project 2025, and if any of our listeners don't know what it's about, please Google it. It is the most dangerous thing that I have ever seen during my lifetime.
And I think Trump gave him some medal back in the day, like some humanitarian award. So there you go. Joel.
Okay, my schmucks are going to be those who aren't recognizing the reality of what we have, trying to bolster Biden's abilities and his competencies. I think is a fool's errand. I think it's obvious to all of us that those who are telling him, "Hey, stay in there. Your legacy will be whatever it is." His legacy is going to be that he helped destroy America and democracy, because he's not going to win. And what I've learned from Mitch McConnell is you got to win if you're going to make any changes at all. It's the most important thing. And I think that if we continue to support Biden, just because we're scared otherwise, and we're not willing to let the sausage be made in public, then we're all schmucks. So I think it's really an important moment that, that I think that those who are supporting Biden just out of sake of supporting him are doing a disservice to all of us.
All right, Allan.
I'm going to go with first John Roberts for writing the the opinion on the immunity case and showing that yes, maybe he's not as moderate as we thought he was. Exactly right. I think I have something on that, don't I? Anyways, but I'd say that, and also Texas AG Ken Paxton, who there's it's called, I think, the Annunciation House near the Texas border, which helps out immigrants and people in need of housing and being fed. Ken Paxton asked for all the names of the people being housed there, and then he got really pissed and said to move to try to shut it down. The judge, it's a state judge, Francisco Dominguez, who said his requests were outrageous and intolerable, and rejected both of them, saying, an invasion of privacy and on and on and on. But that guy should be in prison already. He's a corrupt AG, and he's continuing to, do the bidding for a fucking fascist governor down there. So,
Allan, why don't you tell us how you really feel about this?
At least when I was a kid, I knew that like Boss Hogg was a villain, but he was just on TV. And then you got all these, people everywhere. So not just some good old boys, never meaning no harm. That's all you ever saw. Get in trouble with the law till the day they was born. Anyway, my schmuck of the week, given that I'm here in England, is American tennis player Taylor Fritz. After defeating in the second round of Wimbledon, which is going on right now, French player Arthur Rinderknecht in 4 sets at the net, this moment where you go ahead and shake hands. In fact, they did shake hands, but Mr. Fritz turns to Mr. Rinderknecht and says, "Have a nice flight home." To which Mr. Rinderknecht says, first of all, I'm playing doubles. And second of all, we've got this train which connects Britain and France, and it's, much more efficient. So for not understanding the much, much better public transport system that is in Europe or anywhere other than the United States, and being just such a jerk, and winning graciously, Taylor Fritz, you're my schmuck of the week. So there you go. And you thought it was done with McEnroe and Connors. Thank you again for a wonderful discussion on some really, really important topics. Thank you, Barb Ingalls. Thank you, Beverly Watts. Thank you, Bill Seikaly. Thank you, Joel Sklar. Thank you, Steve Fishman. He didn't let me thank him. Thank you, Ed Sarpolus. Thank you, Nancy Derringer in absentia. And with the last word, and with thanks to him, always, Allan Lengel.
Drive home safely.
Have a great week, everybody.
All right.